Hilchis Mechirah Pedic Esrim. Hamavakish liklis mechaverim mekach. Someone wants to buy an item from someone. A mechirema b'masayim ani mechelach. I'm ready to sell it for 200. I'm not paying more than 100. I'm only paying more than 100. And Lepel, they didn't agree to the price. The seller wanted 200, and the Lekech said, I'm not buying it for more than 100. And Lepel, v'olach zeh lebeisei, v'zeh lebeisei. And v'achar kach niskap, so they got together, and Lepel, Moshe zeh achefet stam, the Lekech made a Maisa Meshicha stam without making up what the price is. So the question is, what's the price? The Lekech made a Maisa Kinyan, but what's the price? Is imam mecher who shetava lekech v'nosan liachefetz, if the mecher is the one that initiated now, after they already argued and after they went home, so now the mecher is the one that initiated that he should make the kinyan, and he gave him the item to make the kinyan. In Meila, in an Eistan Almana, so we understand that the mecher agreed to the lekech, he acquiesced, and he was willing to sell it for 100. However, the lekech who shebo moshe zachefetz tam, the lekech took the initiative. In other words, the mecher didn't ask him to buy it. The Lekech came and made the Meshicha in front of the Mecher. So obviously it has to be in front of the Mecher, or else the Meshicha wouldn't be a Meshicha. He made it in front of the Mecher, so then it's Chayiv Litin Masayim, because then we understand that the Lekech agreed to the price of the Mecher. That's the number one. Halacha Beis. Halekech mi'echad mechamisha b'nei adam. A person bought something from someone, he knows that it's one of 5 people, and Lepel v'chol echad mehem tiveyo isei, ve'emer ani u'bala mekach. So each one claims that I'm the one that sold it to you. He took an item from someone and he owes someone a certain amount of money, but he doesn't know who he owes. So the din is each one, even though each one is claiming that he owes it to him, but he says, I don't know, I don't really know. It's like a bari v'shema. This person's a bari, you owe me money, and he's saying maybe I owe someone else. So therefore, and so this money remains either until they agree to divide it amongst each other, or now v'im hu chassid is then noisin, since he knows that he bought it from someone and he owes someone the money, so he wants to pay the person that he owes the money back. Now, there's sometimes it says that Chayev Lasses Yidei Shamayim. Over here, the Rambam doesn't say Chayev Lasses Yidei Shamayim. The Rambam just says, the Muchasid is Neisen Dam L'Chalechad Ve'echad. So the Rambam brings from the K'tzos that Taka, normally there's Taka Chayev Lasses Yidei Shamayim. In other words, even though B'din Yodin they can be Teveya, but there's a Chayev Lasses Yidei Shamayim. Over here, there's not even a Chayev Lasses Yidei Shamayim. He knows he owes one of them, he doesn't know who. There's no Chayev Lasses Yidei Shamayim. By the fact that he was miniach b'neim, he was already mechayim his chiyuv that he has. But on the other hand, if muchasid, and he wants the lasad shemayim to actually pay back, certainly to make sure that he paid back the person that he took the money from, the item from, so then he pays each one. That's talking about if he owes the money because of a sale. In other words, there was a sale, he bought something from someone, he owes one of them the money, he doesn't know who, each one is claiming that it's his. So miniach money b'neim umestalik, or in Huchasid, so he gives each one the money, Lassis Yidei Shemayim. Now what about Lokach Mekach Me'echad Mechamishim Niyadam? He bought something from one of 5 people, and Lepeil V'Kofar Bey, the person that he actually bought from, he went ahead, that person was Teveya by him, and he was Kofer, he denied owing the money, and Lepeil V'Nizbral Sheker, and he even swore falsely, which means that when he's going to admit, he's going to be Chayev, a Keren V'Chemesh, and also on Oshim, Hashem Gzelas. And V'asa Tshuva, he did Tshuva. Now V'harureitzo l'shalem, he wants to go ahead and pay the person that he owes the money to. So in the first case, he owes the money because of the sale. Over here, there's Nachmer, there was a sale, and now there was a Shvuah l'sheker, and now he's being made that he swore l'sheker. So in V'chol echad v'echad tivei eisei v'eimer aniu shekafarta bi v'nishbaitali. Again, there's 5 people. He doesn't remember who is the one that he bought it from, and that he swore to falsely. That's gufa al-zeh on the donim. He swore to someone falsely, to the one that he actually bought it from, but he doesn't remember who it is. And each one is claiming that I'm the one that you swore falsely, and therefore you owe me the Karen V'Chemesh. V'hu eimer eini yedeh. So over here is chayiv l'sham l'cholechad v'echad me'shavar aveda. Here there was a knas. In the case before, he also owed the money for sure, he doesn't know to who. And over here also, he owes the money for sure, he doesn't know to who. But over here, since he did an Avera, over there was no Avera. He bought something, and Lepele doesn't know who he bought it from. Masha'in came over here, he did an Aveda, he was Nishbal HaSheker, and he owes that person the Keren, the Chemish. So the din is over here, since he's Eini Yedeas, he has to pay each one, it was a Knas. Halacha Dalet. Neman Bala Mekach Leimar, Lezem Mecharti, or Lezem Le Mecharti. Now the case is, two people want to buy an item, and they're both giving the seller money for the item. They're both giving the seller money for the item. But one of them, the seller, took the money for Bidaite. And the other one, it was like pushed into him. And the question is, which one is the one that he took Midaite? So he's the one that he wants to sell the item to. That he's the one that he actually sold the item to. Mashayk, and who's the one that pushed the money into him and he took a Shlei Midaite? So the din is the Baal Mekach is believed to say, Lezem Macharti, Lezem Le Macharti. This is the one I sold it to, and this is the one I didn't sell it to. Aim aside, Bisman Shah Mekach Yetzim Mitachas Yodi. If the Mekach is still in his possession, so really he has the ability to say, I didn't sell to anyone. So Mela, since he's in a meager position, he's biyodei, so therefore he could say, I sold it to him and not to him. If he no longer has possession of the item is lying by them, and there's two people holding onto an item, grabbing onto an item, and each one is claiming, I'm the one that paid the money for the item, and Lepel, one of them paid the money midaite, and the other one paid the money shalei midaite. So then is harehu eidachet bulvad. Even though he was the seller, he only has a din of an eidachet. V'dinei be'eduzu kedin kol adam. He has a din like a regular person. Shari einin negeh be'edus. He's not a negeh be'edus. And therefore, since he has a din of an eidachet, so therefore lepeil, if the two people are holding it together, so the one that's the emes, when two people hold things together without an eidachet, so the din is yachlekel. Over here, since each one is claiming that the whole thing is theirs, and there's one of them that has an eidachad which is Messiah, so on that, the pshat is that the one that the eidachad is Messiah could be mechayev the other one a shvur deiraisa. So normally it would only be a shvur derabbanan. Each one swears a shvur derabbanan, the shvur of shnayim eivzim. But over here, knows they're both claiming that it's theirs. Each one is, let's say, a murzik together with each other. So one of them that's claiming that all of it is his, the other one is mechayev a shvur deiraisa. And the one that the eidachad is being Messiah becomes shvur, part of mashvur derabbanan. So basically, the din is going to be that they're going to divide the item, but the one that the eidachad is Messiah won't have to swear, and the one that the eidachad is going against will have to swear a shvur derais. That's the pashtus advarim. The dinei be'eduzu kedin kolodem shari'ene b'negeh be'edusei, and therefore, in a case where two people are holding on to it, and one of the moicher, which is no longer mikri biyadi, is Messiah, one of them. So he has a din of an eidachad, which an eidachad is mechayev a shvur deiraisa, and he also patters the one that's mechayev a shvur derabbanan from a shvur. Lefichach, im notal had omi mishnayim, lepel if he took the money from both of them, and v'notal me'achad midaiti me'achad b'lei midaiti, and v'lei yoda minotal midaiti minotal b'bal karchi. He doesn't really know who's the one that he took midaiti or bal karchi. So therefore, lepel, he doesn't have a din of an emanis at all, because he really doesn't know who's the one that he took midaiti, who's the one that he took bal karchi. Is ben shahaya mekach biyadi, ben shahaya to name tefsime, whether he still had the money, the item, or they had the item, is ein kanedus klal. And v'cholechad mem nishba b'takonas hachom and kithas chayfes, v'netel chatzia mekach v'chatzia adom. So then it would be like a regular din of a meida b'miktzas. So a meida b'miktzas is lepel, when they're only arguing about an item, so then the meida b'miktzas, they divide the item, and each one swears. Each one has to swear that it's only b'pachas mechetzia. Now over here, there's another argument. There's also money involved. They gave the money to the Mechir, and the Mechir doesn't know who's the one that gave me the Mechir. He has two sets of money. He doesn't know who's the one that really it's his, and the set of money is that he actually paid for the item, and who's the one that the money has to be returned. So over here, they divide the item and they divide the money. It's nachamah. If the Bala Mekach has the item in his possession, so he's believed to say that this is the person that he took midaiti, and this is the one that he took balkorche. So the one that he took midaiti, the item becomes his, and the one he gives him the item, and the one that he took balkorche, he just returns the money. He just returned the money, and there's no issues. Now, if lepeil, it's no longer in his possession. It's no longer his possession, and again, there's the same argument: who did he take midaiti? Who did he take balkorche? So then he has a din of an eidachot. What's the din of an eidachot? The Ram doesn't really taichuiz the din of an eidachot. The Ram doesn't taichuiz the din of an echad, but the Magen Mishnah taichus always that the din of an echad would mean that the person that he's going against has to swear shvur deiraisa in order to get his half, and the one that is in favor of doesn't have to swear that shvua d'Rabbanan. That's the difference. Normally, the two of them, each one would have to swear shvua d'Rabbanan, and here the one that he's going against has to swear shvua d'Oraisa, and the one that he's going for doesn't have to swear the shvua d'Rabbanan. And in a case where he doesn't know, he clearly doesn't know. So then it makes no difference if it's biyadir, it's not biyadir. Either way, it's yachleiku. It's yachleiku. Side the chayfetz is yachleiku, and side the money is yachleiku, and they swear a shvua. The shvua is hamishna. The shvua is hamishna she'en li b'pakas mechatzi. Now the mice is when the chayfetz is biyadei, l'chura, when the chayfetz is biyadei, and one of them gave it midaite, one of them gave it balkorche, and we're saying he's naman to say who gave it midaite, who gave it balkorche. L'chura, I mean, let's say lepel there's no ma'asekinyan. Lepel metaltal is not nikne bekesef. Metaltal is doch not nikne bekesef. So he took money from two people. The question is which one did he take midaite and which one did he balkorche. But at some, he really has a right to say, I don't want to sell it. Even the person that he did midaita, he could say it. The only thing is that there would be a din of mishapara. There would be a din mishapara. In other words, if a person clearly has charata from who, in other words, he took money from someone and now he's having charata, he said, I don't want to sell it. It's mishapara. Over here, he's claiming this one was midaita and this one was balkarche. So what could we taina? I mean, what's the chiddush over here? We taina what? That no, maybe it's not like that. So we say he's Naaman because it's biyad. And if it's not Naaman, let's say he wouldn't be Naaman. Let's say there's no din of Naamanus. Now Lepel, he's tying this one was midaite, and therefore I'm giving him the item, and this one was balkarche, and I'm not giving him the item. I'm giving him back the money. So what could be the taina? The person that is giving back the money is claiming, no, I gave it to you midaite. And memela what? So let's say I'm wrong. So what are you tying? You're tying that I deserve a mishapara. And I'm tying I don't deserve a mishapara. So you'll give a person a mishapara because he's tying that he deserves a mishapara. I'm saying, I don't understand exactly what's the chiddush. I mean, this din, that Neman balamekach lema lezeh macharti lezeh macharti. And he took the money from both of them. Mizeh midaiti, mizeh balkarche. And basically the money wasn't koine yet. If the money was already koine, so I understand. The question is, who does it belong to? But l'chura, since kesef is not koine, so it's only a question of a mishapara. So basically he's saying that this is the one I took midaite, this is the one I took balkarche. So what is the one? What could the one that is claiming that he took balkarche claim? He's saying, no, I gave it to you midaite. Okay, so what are you tying? You're tying, I'm doing something wrong. I'm going back on a sale which I took the money, and therefore I'm entitled to a mishapara. I deserve a mishapara. Okay, that's your title, but I'm tying it's not like that. You don't give a mishapara because someone's tying a mishapara. If the only one's tying, you don't tie a mishapara. I mean, you don't find such a din. So l'chura, evazei, what's the chiddush? It's hard. I'm just saying l'chura tzarech bir. What's the chiddush of nama balamekach leima lezeh macharti lezeh macharti when the mekach is biyod and he took midaiti of balkarchi? Halacha hey. Harei sheton al chaveri ve'omar macharti. Someone comes and says, you sold me this and this item. V'zei malei macharti. I never sold this item. Or the person is tining, the seller is tining, macharti, I think I sold the item. You want the item, but you never paid me for it. So until you pay me for it, I'm not giving you the item. Someone comes and says, I gave you money for this item, but I didn't make a mashicha. I want to make a mashicha for the item. And the other one is tining, no, you never gave me the money. The lekech is tining, I made a mashicha on this item, and I never saw this mum. What do you mean you never saw this mum? I told you about the mum. You knew exactly that this mum is there. This was our deal. So no, they're arguing. The Mechirah is tining one thing, the lekech is tining another thing. There's an argument. Is the general rule is whoever is the muhzi, he's the raya. So if someone comes along and says machartali, and he says le macharti, or macharti v'lina satali dam, so since he's the muhzik, so in Mela, the lekech doesn't get it unless he proves it. Or if the lekech comes along and says, I gave you money, and lepel, you have to give me back the item. So he says, no, I never got the money. So again, the moicher is the muhzik. Or in the case of there's a mum, lepel, the lekech bought an item, he paid for the item, and now he's claiming that there was a mum. And the moicher is tining, I told you about the mum. So basically, the lekech really has the item, the moicher already has the money. Now the question is, lekech is saying, I have to be reimbursed for the item, because lepel, there was a mum. And the Mechir is saying, I don't have to reimburse you because Lepel, I told you about the mump. So in such a case, again, the Mechir is the muhzik in the money. Since the Mechir is the muhzik in the money, so he doesn't have to reimburse him. Now, lo hoyse sham raya, if there was no raya, is nishba hakoifer shemavakshel heisim imenu miyadish was hases. So that's the rule. When a person's ktevei moment and he doesn't have a raya, the muhzik is telling, I don't owe you the money. So the muhzik has to swear shwas hases. However, if it was heide b'mikzas atayna, if the nitva was heide b'mikzas atayna, eish yoshel of eidechod, there's a eidechod which is being misayeya the teveya, so then is nishba shvos atayna, kishar tainus kula. So then there's the din of a shvos atayna like all tainus. Halacha zayin. Now, until now we said that lepel, if there's an argument between the mecher and the lekeach, the rule is hametz mechaver all v'raya. So if one of them is a muhzik and the other one's a meitzi, so hametz mechaver all v'raya. And the Moitzi and the Muhzik has to swear Shuas Heses if he's a Kefer Hakel, or a Shuas Meid of a Mixas if he's a Meid of a Mixas. Now we have a case where it's not Mamish a Muhzik. It's not Mamish a Muhzik. Amar lechenveni tenli bedinner payers. The buyer tells the chenveni, sell me a dinner worth of payers. And Vanasa lepel, the chenveni gave the payers, and Vahareya payers munachim b'rshus harabim. The payers aren't b'rshus halikeach yet. But on the other hand, they're not anymore b'rshus ha-chenveni, they're lying in the b'rshus ha-rab. Va-chenveni teveas ha-dinah. The chenveni says, I was never paid for these payers. They're lying in the b'rshus ha-rab, and I was never paid for it. Ubalabai is saying, nasati l'cha adam, I paid you already. The buyer is saying, I paid you, v'ishlach te'esim l'te'ach. You threw it into your purse where you keep your money. So the din is, harei ha-likeach nishba ketakones chacham ben-chitzes chayfetz v'neitel ha-payers. So over here there's a din that the lekeach, the buyer, goes ahead and he swears a he has to swear ketakones chacham, and he becomes a nishba v'neitel. Why? Hey, look, kvar yotzim reshus hamecher and vahareim reshus harab. Notice if they would have still been reshus hamecher, so then he wouldn't have been able to swear and take because the mecher was the muhzik. Memela obviously wouldn't be able to take, like we learned before. It's amis mechaver el v'raya. The mecher would have swear shvos heses. But lepel, he wouldn't have been able to be on nishba v'netel. Masha'enkin, since it's no longer b'rshus hamecher, so therefore the Chacham instituted that the lekeach should become a nishba v'netel. Agam l'chura, why is the lekeach more believed over here than the mecher? Because the mecher did start the sale. That's what the Ramar brings from the Feres Yisrael. The mecher, he gave him already the payers. In other words, it's not like he didn't do anything. Clearly there was no sale. They started the process of the sale, but the mecher claims that he didn't get paid yet, and the lekeach claims he did pay it, and lepel, the item, finds itself in Rishus Harabim. So since the process of the sale already began, so the din is that the lekeach is a nishba v'netel. Now, v'ilo hoya b'rshus lekeach, if the lekeach would have taken possession of it, and the moicha would have claimed that he has to get paid for it, hoya nishba shvos heses v'nifter. So then the lekeach would only have to swear shvos heses. He wouldn't have to swear shvos takonos chachomim of nishba v'netel. And the ilo hayadayim rishus hachenveni, and if it would have still been in the rishus of the chenveni, hayanishba heses, then the chenveni would have been nishba heses. V'yisharu peres of etzlei. So we have over here like a knows if it's rishus halekeach, so the lekeach is nishba heses. If it's rishus hachenveni, the chenveni is nishba heses. But here there's the din that they started the process. The chenveni it's already lying in the rishus harabim. It's already lying in the rishus harabim. The chenveni is tining that he didn't get paid for it. So the din is that the lekeach is a nishba v'neitel. Now, halacha ches, nosen halekeach dinner lechenveni. The lekeach gave the dinner to the chenveni. That's a fact. Ubo little peiris hamunachim l'shus harabim. Now the lekeach is claiming, I just paid you for it. Now I want to take those peiris, which are munachim l'shus harabim. Now v'omer hachenveni, the case before we were saying the chenveni is claiming he didn't take any money. But over here the chenveni is tining dinner zesh nasatel yachshov. Who did me perish? You Taka just gave me money, but that money is for other payers which you already took from me, and you owed me money for it. These payers of Rishus Harabim, I never sold them to you. In other words, you never paid me for it, and I never actually sold it to you. So he's claiming I paid you money for these payers, and there's payers lying in Rishus Harabim. The lekeach comes along and gives money to the chenveni, which that's clear that he gave money to the chenveni, but the chenveni is tiny. No, you gave me money that you owed me from a previous sale. Masha'inkin, for this, I never sold it to you. So over here, the Chavani is not even admitting that there was a beginning of a sale. In the case of Allah Vov, the Chavani was admitting that there was a beginning of a sale. In other words, the Lekech wanted to buy the item from him, and the Chavani gave him the item, and Lepel, the item is now in Rishus Harabim. So there was a beginning of a sale, and now we say that since there's an argument if it was paid or not, so the Lekech is a Nishba V'Netel. But over here, the Chavani is telling there was no sale in the first place. So over here is Ariyah Chenveni in Nishba ben Kitzas Chayfetz Shekach Hayadover. So here the Chenveni is the one that's Nishba ben Kitzas Chayfetz that Shekach Hayadover. Umavze Peres LeChenveni. Now he can bring back his Peres LeChenveni because he's claiming there was never a sale. Now Shari Haydeli Shemaklu Me'elu. He's not admitting at all to the sale. Now Ve'ilu Hoye Bechanusei. If these Peres were still in this Chanus, Hoye Nishba Shvuas Heses K'mei Shebiyanu. Then he would only have to pay a Shvuas Heses. And they would only have to swear Shvuas Heses. But sin lepel, the payers are lying Rishus Harabim, and the buyer is claiming that it's his and that he paid for it. So then, in order for the Chavani to take it back into his chanus, he needs a Shvuas, a Takonis Chacham, a more Chomer dik Shvuas, a Shvuas Hadayan. Halacha tes v'chein hadin benoisen dinner l'shulchani little mois. So the same idea, a person is giving a dinner to a shulchani to take mois, to take change for it. Bizman sha mois svurim b'shus harabim, and the mois are lying in Rishus Harabim. Is ima shulchani hoide shemachron. The shulchani admits that they started the beginning of the sale in order so that he asked him to exchange this dinner, and lepel he gave him the mois, but he's just waiting for the dinner in return. Not till a dinner, he's only claiming that he didn't take the dinner, but he already started the process of the sale. But lepel he put it in the Rishus Harabim. So then again, it's just like before. We had Benegeh the Peiris. The Lekech is a Nishba Shuas V'Netel. So over here also Nishba Lekech Ben Kitzas Chayfetz Shenasan. The Lekech, the person that gave the money, that claims he gave the money to the Shulchani, is Lekech Ben Kitzas Chayfetz Shenasan V'Netel Amos, and he takes the monies which the Shulchani put into Rishus Harabim, or that he put into the Rishus Harabim. In other words, the sale started. The process of the exchange started. But the question is, the Shulchan is claiming, I didn't get the dinner. I started the process, but I didn't get the dinner. However, if he's claiming I never sold it to him, he agrees that I just took from you this dinner. The same idea. In other words, I once gave you mois, and now you're paying me back that dinner for those mois that I once gave you. And there was never a sale for new mois. And the mois are lying in Rishus Harabim. So again, Hari HaShulchan in Nishba ben Kitzas Chayfetz. So the Shulchan swears ben Kitzas Chayfetz that he didn't take this dinner for these mois, and then he brings back the money to his store.
Halacha Yud Hamachlev Pora Bechamer V'Yolda V'chein Hamecher Shivchose V'Yolda. So we have a case. One person owns a Pora, the other person owns a Chamer, and they're exchanging it with each other. So the din is that once the Baal HaPora makes a kinyan on the Chamer, so then the Baal HaChamer owns the Pora. Al Derazev, they're selling a Shivcha, so if they make a kinyan between themselves, in other words, the buyer gives the seller money, so then the Shivcha belongs to the buyer, even though the Shivcha is not here, but they're exchanging money amongst themselves. So the Shivcha then belongs to the buyer. By the Parah and the Chamer, once the Parah makes a kinyan on the Chamer, so the Parah now, the Baal HaParah makes a kinyan on the Chamer, so the Baal HaChamer now owns the Parah. Now when they come to the Parah, or they come to the Shivcha, they realize that they already had the Vlad. They were move Beretz, and then they see that they had the Vlad. Now it's not clear, did they have the Vlad before the kinyan, or did they have the Vlad after the kinyan? If the Vlad was before the kinyan, so it belongs to the original owner, to the Baal HaParah or to the Baal HaShivcha. If it came after the kinyan, so then it belongs to the buyer. And there's an argument between them. That's Hamachlev Parah B'Chamer V'Yolda. V'chein Hamecher Shivchose V'Yolda. Zeh Eimer Ad Shelei Macharti Yolda. The seller is saying that this later happens before the sale, and the mailer, the Vlad is mine, to the seller. V'zeh Eimer Mishal Lakachti Yolda. And the buyer is claiming no. The buyer is saying, let's say, the Baal HaChamer is claiming that this Vlad was born after the Baal HaParah made a kinyan in the Chamer, so then the Parah already belonged to the Baal HaChamer, and that's when the Vlad was born. Nafilo Omer HaMecher Eini Yedei, even if the Mecher says Eini Yedei, but the pale, since the Mecher is a muhzik, the pashtus, it's lying in the rishus of the Mecher, because if the shivcha was originally his rishus, the para was originally his rishus, but pashtus it's lying in his rishus. So therefore, the din is ala lekech lahavi raya, even if it's a bari v'shema. That's l'chura the pashtus advarim, that this is the case we're talking about because it's lying in his rishus. Now, even though the Ram doesn't say a new case, like saying clearly that it's a new case, but l'chura the pashtus is that this is a new case. Afal pisha para imedis ba'agam, v'hashivcha imedis b'simta. So now he's not mamish a mugzik, it's not really lying in his rishus, but nevertheless harein b'cheskas hamecher. So in other words, he is the Morikama. So now we're talking about that in a case where it's not actually lying in his rishus, but he's the Morikama. So memela is harein b'cheskas hamecher. It's considered b'cheskas hamecher ad sheyavei alikeach raya, until the alikeach brings a raya. So therefore, it's not considered as if no one is a mugzik. It is considered that it's b'cheskas hamecher until the alikeach brings a raya. Now lehevi raya. If the alikeach doesn't bring a raya, so over here, since we're not dealing in a case where it's mamish b'cheskasi, that's l'chura, we learn pshat, poshet pshat. Notice this case, in the case where it was mamish lying b'cheskasi, so over there he doesn't need a shvua. He's the muhzik, and therefore even though the lekech is taining a tainas bari and he's taining a tainas shema, so the din is bari v'shema. The bari is not meitzim and the muhzik is b'cheskasi, and therefore it belongs to the original owner until he brings a raya against him. Masha'inkin over here, it's no longer lying in his rishus. It's not lying in his rishus. It's only becheskase, because he is the morikama. So it's becheskas hamecher ad sheyavi alekech raya, until the lekech brings a raya. The lekech is bring a raya to prove that it was born before the kinyan. Now lehevi raya. So yeshava hamecher bin kitas chayfetz al vlad para. So over here, in order for the moicher to retain the para and it should remain his, so he needs a shvua. He needs a shvua. Yeshava hamecher b'nikitas chayfetz avlad apara. Avlad shivcha eini nishba leses. Why? Because shein nishboy b'nikitas chayfetz alo avodim v'lei ala karkois k'mishi yizbar b'ilchus teim v'nitten. So as far as the shivcha is concerned, the vlad of the shivcha, there's no din of a shvua here. There's no din of a shvua here. But as far as the vlad of the par is concerned, there's a shvua. Now the question is, what kind of shvua is it? What's this gather of this shvua? So the pashtus, the Rashi Baba Kama says it's a shvua of meida v'miktzas, because he's l'chura being meida on the para, he's being meida on the para, and the argument is about the vlad, so it's a shvua of meida v'miktzas. But others learn in the Rambam al kol panim that we're not talking, it's a shvua d'Rabbanan, it's a din d'Rabbanan, and especially what we're saying is that this din is only in a case where he's not the muhzik mamish, it's only in a case where he's a cheskas marikama. So again, when he's a cheskas marikama, and there's let's say a bari, so the din is that if we're dealing with the shivcha, so it remains by the marikama, by the balapara, but on the other end he has to swear. If we're talking about by a para, by a shivcha, since there's no din shvua, so over there there's only a din of a shvuas heses. That's this din. Bari. Halacha Yudalef, and again, we're talking about only in the case where it's becheskas marikam, and not in the original case where it's mamish becheskasi. We're only talking about in a case where it's becheskas marikam, and the einom b'shus echad. The Rambam says clearly that it's einom b'shus echad yikem is such a case as yachleku. That's the din of yachleku. So again, we have one case where it's mamish b'shusei. So then it remains by the muhzik. It remains by the muhzik, the person that's the muhzik, and the other person is a meitzi mechaver olav raya. And even in a case where the muhzik is a shema and the meitzi is a bari, nevertheless we say mechaver olav raya. In a case where neither of them is a muhzik, and lepel right now is becheskas marikama, so when it's a bari, so then the cheskas marikama, the marikama has to swear that it's his. He has to swear that it's his. Masha'in came if it's a shema, and then it remains by him. Masha'in came if it's a shema v'shema, it's a shema v'shema, so then there's a din of yachleiku. But when it's a cheskas marikama, when it's a cheskas marikama, so then there's a din of yachleiku. Now, b'pashtus, even if it's a bari and he doesn't want to swear, so then again we'll say yachleiku. And knows this din that the cheskas marikama could keep it by the marikama is only because he's the marikama, and he's also swearing. He's swearing this shvua of that it's his. But if he's not swearing that shvur, so then l'churi has this din of just like by zeh me'ini yedeh v'zeh me'ini yedeh. In such a case, you say yachleiku. So al derez in a case where he doesn't want to swear, it's also yachleiku. The Rambam doesn't say clearly that din. Now, what about in a case where it's becheskes marikama and the lekech is a bari and the marikama is a shema? So the Ram also doesn't say that case. That's also the Ram doesn't say that case. That's also the Chura Mokim to say that over there. We'll also say Yachleiku. In the case before, when he's mamish the muzik, so then he keeps it, even though he's a shema. But over here, where he's not mamish a muzik, it's only becheskas marikama. So mele when it's zeh me'eni yedeh v'zeh me'eni yedeh, so it's Yachleiku. The marshal in the case where he's mamish a muzik. So even though the Chura, the Maggid Mishnah seems to say that even if it's a mamish a muzik, so Zaymin and Yedeh, V'Zaymin and Yedeh also would say Yachleiku, but it's very hard to understand that because the Rambam clearly said L'chura that even by Bari V'Shema it remains by the Bari. So the Maggid Mishnah says by Bari V'Shema it only remains by the Bari half, but that's L'chura not the Pashtus Haloshin. The Pashtus Haloshin of the Rambam is that by a Bari V'Shema it remains by the Muzik because L'Peil is a Muzik. Masha'inkin, when he's not a muzik, it's only becheskes morikama, so normally by a bari, he has to swear in order to remain by the morikama, unless we're talking about a shivcha, where there's no chi of shua, it's only a shua's hesses. And then by a shema v'shema, we say yachleiku. What'll be the din by a bari v'shema? Again, the Rambam doesn't say. Now this din is talking about either bari or shema v'shema, and again, we have a case where he's mamish the muzik, and there's a case where he's the cheskes morikama. Zeimer b'shusi yolda v'achar sheisik is zochatein b'vlat. Now this din of Zeimer b'shusi yolda v'achar sheisik is not the same like Bari v'shema. Bari v'shema, the taich, one of them is tiny Bari, and the other one is saying that I'm not saying that you're saying is not true, but what I'm saying is that I don't agree to what you're saying. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a shema. I'm tiny that it's a shema. As far as I'm concerned, it's a shema. That's the tiny of shema. When a person is sheisik, the sheisik could also mean that I'm agreeing that what you're saying is not true. So when a person presents an argument and the other one is sheisik, so Mimela basically he's acquiescing to the argument. When a person says Shema, he's saying, I'm not agreeing to what you're saying, but on the other hand, I'm not tiny that I know for a fact that what you're saying is not true. But I certainly am not saying that I know what you're saying is true. Mashenk in the shtika could be interpreted that I'm agreeing to what you're saying is true. So that's this din Zeimer, Rishusi Yoldev, Achar Sheisik. So the din is Zachatein Bavad, because Lepel, he's tying a tainas bari, and the other person is not arguing. So Memela, so he's, so to speak, acquiescing. He's agreeing to this argument. So Memela, so he wins with his argument. Halacha Yud Beis. Mi shohayu l'shnei avodim kotten v'gadol, eshtei sodis achas ktanu gdela, and he sold one of them, halakeachem gdela lekachti, that the deal was for me to buy the larger of the two. And v'hamechere menol ktani shelakachta. What I sold to you was only the smaller one. You only bought the smaller one. So the din is al halakeach lahavi raya. So again, so lepel, since the moicher is the muzik, he's the original muzik in the item, and the question is whether the lekeach was koina from the moicher. So memela is al halakeach lahavi raya. Oi yishav hamecher hesed shlei mocher alakotten. So over here we wouldn't be a made of mitzvahs because in avodim and in karkois there's no din of shvus made of mitzvahs. So memela it could be it's also a din of halach, but I'll call upon there's no din of made of mitzvahs. So memela, so the lekeach, if the lekeach wants to be zeich in the godel, either the karka or the avodim, he would have to prove it, and if he doesn't prove it, so then there's a chiv shvus eses on the mecher. Halacha Yud Gimel. Omar halekeach godel lekachti, lekeach is tiny godel lekachti, v'hamecher sheisik. So then is zakal lekeach begodel. Then he's zeicha because lepel when the moicher is sheisik, so basically he's accepting the lekeach's argument. Im Omar hamoicher eini yedeya. However, if the maker is saying, no, I'm not accepting what you're saying. I'm not saying what you're saying is true. I'm saying I'm not sure what you're saying is not true, but I'm not sure that what you're saying is yet true. So then is al lekeach lahavi raya. So then again, so that's this principle that bari v'shema. So you can't be mitzi moment from a muzik. When it's a bari and the other person is a shoisik, so he's not tying shema. He's agreeing. He's accepting the argument. Mashenk, when a person is saying shema, he's saying I'm beferish not accepting what you're saying. But on the other hand, I'm not saying that what you're saying is true. So then we say that the lekeach is a bari and he's taka shema, and then the din is hametz mechaver olavaraya. V'amar hamecher eni yedea Al lekeach lo havi raya, the lekeach has to bring a raya. Oy, nishba ha-mecher hesed, she'eni yedea. So Mecher swears that he's a hesed, that eini yedea, and memela vein lezeh lekotni, the one that he agrees on, that's what he gets. Mashein came the other, the gadol, which the Mechirah is saying, Eini Yedeh, if I actually sold it, so he's the muzik, so even though he's a bari and he's a shem, he's Eini Yedeh, nevertheless, it remains by the Mechirah. Halacha Yudalit, Kol mi shenoiled asofik b'rshusei, olav lahavi raya. Over here we're learning a new din, b'negei the halachas of chazaka de Mechirah. Whereas normally we have a rule that if you have something that has a certain status, the chazaka de Mechirah, and now there's a suffix of later on, that status changed. So if we don't know for sure, we assume that the status remained as it was before. But now we're saying that if it was noilad hasafik b'rshusei, so then it's olav lahavi raya, like we'll learn behemshach. Kol misha noilad hasafik b'rshusei olav lahavi raya ketzad. Hamachlif parah b'chamer, someone that exchanged a parah b'chamer. Now moshach bala chamer is a parah, and obviously that at that point in time, the Bala Parah became the owner of the Chamer. The Bala Chamer was being Meshul the Parah, and the Bala Parah was becoming the owner on the Chamer. Now, V'lepel v'hispik Bala Parah limshich zeh Chamer. The Bala Parah never had a chance to make a Mashiach on the Chamer. Ad shemes Chamer. When he came to see the Chamer died. Now, the question is, when did the Chamer die? Did it die before the Kinyan? So it comes out that the Bala Chamer never really gave the Bala Parah anything. He was being Moshe the Parah, and he had a Chamer that already died. Or no, the Be'emes, when the Bala Chamer was Moshe the Parah, the Chamer was alive, and then Memela the Chamer belonged to the Bala Parah, and now the Bala Parah lost his Chamer died. That's the question. So the pastors of the Chazaka would say that since originally the Bala Chamer, the Chamer was alive, so when the Bala Chamer was Moshe the Parah, so at that point in time, the Chamer was Becheskas Chai. So now we should say that the Bala Parah, let's say the Bala Parah owned this Chamer and died B'Shusei. But Lepel, since the Chamer was found mess, the base Bala Chamer in the original house of the Bala Chamer, so now this is this new din. Misha Noilad HaSafik B'Shusei. Since the suffix was nailed while it was in the base Bala Chamer, so we don't assume that it happened after it was already owned by the Bala Parah. So now, since it happened in the base of the Bala Chamer, you have to understand the Havanas Adin. But that's his din. Kol misha nailed asafik b'rshusei. Since the suffix was nailed while it was in the base of the Bala Chamer, so even though Lechura Pashtus of Chazaka would say that it was alive, but we say no, that we're not going to say that it died after it already belonged to the Bala Parah, because since it was base Bala Chamer, we assume that it belonged to the Bala Chamer. A Bala Chamer lavi raya shahaya Chameri kayim b'shas mashichas haparetz. He has to prove that the Chamer was still alive when the Parah was nimshach, because since it happened the bias, so the pashtus that was the matzav. This matzav is nimshach on the whole time that it was bebase Bala Chamer, v'chen kol kiyetz. Let's read the halach again. Kol misha neilad hasafik b'rshusei. When the suffix was nailed in the rishus of someone, so then, and he's timing that it happened after the other person was already koined, but lepel it happened while it was in his rishus, begashmis, so then it's all of lahavi raya. Ketzad. We had the same din b'negeh, a mum that was found, and the question is, when was the mum? Before the kedushin, after the kedushin? Also the same dinim apply. So the din is ketzad hamachlif parah b'chamer. Someone exchanges a parah b'chamer. Umosher bala chamer is a parah, and v'lihispik bala parah limshech es a chamer achem es a chamer. So now we see that the chamer was mess, and the question is, when was it mess? Was it mess before the bala chamer was meshach the parah? And Mamela, so was mess b'shuz Bala Chamer, or was it mess after the Bala Chamer was meshach of the Parah? Mamela was mess b'shuz Bala Parah, but the Pele died b'shuz Bala in the Gashmi's the Rishus of the Bala Chamer. Is Allah Bala Chamer lahavi raya shoye Chameri kayim b'shas Meshichas HaParah. He has to prove that while the Meshichas HaParah took place, while he was baking a Meshich of the Parah, the Chamer was still Kayim, v'chein kol kiyetz b'zeh. And if not, we say that since we found it mess in this Rishus, so we assume that while it was in this Rishus, it's mess. And we go back even to before the Maisakin. Now this halacha, same halacha, is halacha tezvav. Machat hanimtza b'uvi beis cases. You have a machat which was found in uvi beis cases. which is a place in the stomach where over there the machar, if it makes a hole, so it causes it to be a treifa. And v'nikva oisin nekev mefulish, and it made a hole over there in the uvi beis hakeses, the thickness of the beis hakeses, which is part of the stomach. Is im nimtzo le kur dam, if you find blood over there in this hole, is biyadur shezen nitr v'kedem shchita. So we know for sure that the dam, that this happened after shchita, before shchita rather. Whereas if it happened after shchita, it's no problem, so it's not a treifa. Mashenkin, since you found dam over there, we know that this behema was nishchata as a treifa. Now, lepel, the question is, did you buy it as a treifa? The person that bought this behema, did he buy it as a treifa? And if he bought it as a treifa, so then it's a mekach tois, because you didn't want to buy a treifa. Or no, you bought it as a shlema. And now the question, it was nitrfa, maybe b'rshus alikeach. That's the shaylas. When did it become a treifa? B'rshus alikeach or b'rshus hamecher? In other words, if it became a treifa after the shchita, there's no problem. Once we establish that it became a treifa before the shchita, we want to know when did it become a treifa? Before he bought it or after he bought it? Lefichach. Is imhiglet pia makkah. If the makkah that was created by this machat already made a scab, is biyadua shezonitrifo kedem shleishi yom kedem shchita. So in other words, already 3 days before the shchita, it was already a treifa. So if let's say you bought the animal after those 3 days, so then it's pashut that you bought an animal that was a treifa. So if you buy an animal and then the animal is found to be with a machat in uvi beis hakeses, and you see that there's a hole over there and it was blood and there was already a scab, so you know that it's already a treifa for over 3 days. Memela, it comes out that you bought a treifa. There's nothing to declare about. However, lehiglu kliamakev, there's no scab, so we know that it was a treifa before you shechted it, but you don't know when it became a treifa. Did it become a treifa a day before, 2 days before? You don't know when it became a treifa. Is hari adover safik? So the question is, who has to prove when it became a treifa? So on that it says, lepel, when was it found to be a treifa? It was found to be a treifa already while it was by the tabach. Because it wasn't found a treifa while it was the base of the cellar. It was found to be a treifa while it was already by the tabach. The tabach shechted it, and then you saw that it was a treifa. You took out the stomach, you opened up the behemoth, you saw that it was a treifa. So memela, since it was found to be a treifa in the base of tabach, so memela, we're not going to taina that maybe it was a treifa already earlier. Maybe it was a treifa earlier. We say no. Over here, the tabach is the one, if he's going to taina that it happened before, so he has to bring a raya shekedim l'kichasi nitrufo. Shaharei b'rshusei neiled asofik. The sofik was the neiled b'rshusei. It was lying by him, and that's when the sofik happened. V'im lehevi raya, if the tabach doesn't bring a raya, so even though he found it to be a treifa, and he's taining, maybe it was a treifa earlier, but on the other hand, yishalim adam l'mecher k'misha b'yarnu, he has to pay. Whereas he bought the item, the pashtas, the item was beseder, and lepel, later he found it to be a treifa, so we don't go and we say, well, maybe it was a treifa earlier. Over here we say, since it was neilad b'rshusei, so memela kol sheneilad asavi b'rshusei, so he would have to bring a raya that it happened earlier. And l'chura, this din is l'chura din based on the pashta din of chazaka. Whereas even if there wouldn't be this new chiddush of kol sheneilad asavi b'rshusei olav lohavi raya, but lepel, when the behema was bought, it was becheskas ksheira. Since the behema wasn't neilad the treifa, we're talking about it became a treifa through this machat, so it was becheskas ksheira. So memela, so the pashtas dikadin of chazaka would say that there wasn't a treifa. This din that we're saying kol shnei b'shusei, it's like a chiddush dikadin. It's a chiddush dikadin that even though lechura there was a cheskas, that it was a different matzav, but sin this chiddush of kol shnei b'shusei all of lavi raya. But over here, l'chura, you don't have to come on to this din. L'chura, this din is pashut, because lepel, since it was becheskas shleima, and lepel, the suffix was neilad b'shus of the tabach, so memela, so he has to bring a raya whether or not that was a treifa before he bought it.